So this is our final impressions of Dijon, France. So we've been here for a month. We only have 2 full days left here, which we're going to pack in as much wine, snails, cheese, croissants as we can.
Don't forget saucisson.
And saucisson, of course. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the stay here, but what I will talk about is the vibe. So we stayed here basically for the whole month of August, which we know is not really the best month to come to Europe unless you're going to a coastal town, and that's because everyone kind of just goes to the beach, and there's a lot of things that's been shut while we're here. So I don't feel like it's fair to kind of 100% give a rating on the vibe, but even with things shut, I really like the vibe here. It's very bustling. It feels very French. You often have buskers with accordions playing, and then especially if you go to like a central location, for example in Dijon, it's the market and there's restaurants around there. So if you go at like a key dinner time or drinks time, it's extremely busy and the vibe's pretty cool. And like especially the market here, I really like it. It's always busy, and then there's a bar in the market, which is always great as well, because there's always people, you know, having wine at 10:30 in the morning. And I guess what adds to it is the oldness of the city, you know, the cobblestones and really old buildings. And something that is weird for me though, there's like a kind of like a main strip that goes from here all the way down to, is it Liberation Square? Or yeah, Liberation Square. And if you go in the morning, like 10 AM, and during this month, it's so eerily quiet. Also because you don't often hear restaurants playing music, so there's no like background music, and because there's electric buses and electric shuttles, you just don't hear anything except for kind of people talking. So it's extremely quiet and almost weird, because you can see people are there, but it's just like really quiet. So yeah, this is like a smaller city, so it's definitely not, you know, you don't get craziness here. For example, like you would in Bangkok, like there's not a lot of noise. I mean, we're standing by a main road here, and even then it's pretty quiet. But yeah, I mean, I really like it here. Like this park is very close to our Airbnb. It's so cool. Like there's a bear, and everyone is always taking photos riding the bear. And also it's been really hot, so there's those misting things that cools everyone down. Yeah. So that's what I have to say about the vibe.
So I'm covering final impressions in terms of public transport and transport. We actually, because we live so close to the main city, the main town, where everything is pretty much, we didn't actually catch much public transport in terms of within Dijon, but it is exceptionally available. So behind me you'll see tram stops, and they during peak hours they stop by every 5 minutes. The tram stops, and it goes all over Dijon. I think there's 2 or 3 lines, and then you also have buses, you know, like your normal standard buses, and you also have little tiny electric shuttles that go on like the footpath. It's really weird. It's really strange. They're like tiny little buses. They're like, imagine an SUV, but maybe double the size of an SUV, and they drive over like what you'd think is a footpath, but it's actually not. And so there's literally public transport everywhere, and they're not very hard to find. So yeah, but no, we haven't taken public transport. But one thing I can comment though, and you know, if you've traveled in Europe before, let me just stop. Can say, see, there's a tram, you know, very nice looking tram, very clean, very little graffiti. on the tram, very well maintained, tracks and everything, very, very well maintained. But one thing I can say is within France, you can go to the main train stations and catch a train to the other towns for so cheap, so cheap. And so if you are staying in Dijon, and you're staying here for longer than a month or two, or we probably could have done it as well. We actually visited Lyon from Dijon. You can actually go for a day trip somewhere, leave early in the morning, come back late at night. So that's, the public transport is exceptional here. It's very cost effective, very timely, and very good.
So this next section I'm going to talk about in our final impressions is food. So what's interesting about Europe so far for us is that you definitely see that people like particular food, particular dishes. So if you go to a restaurant here, there's always escargot on the menu. There's always oeufs omelette, which is eggs poached in red wine with lardons. There's always beef bourguignon, because beef bourguignon is from this region, same as escargot is from this region. There's always pork cooked in parsley, that's like a terrine thing. So there's always that. It's just quite interesting because this market on the outside is surrounded by restaurants, and about 9 out of 10 of them will serve similar dishes. Luckily, they've all been really delicious. We've tried most of them and we like most of it. So the food here, and it's France, so croissants. And what's really cool about us traveling is a different month in a different country, so we can get to try the local produce. So while we've been here, we've been having peaches, the juiciest peaches of my life, and amazing figs, amazing stone fruit, so nectarine and plums, and the food here has just been amazing. Oh, and then I can't forget the Comté cheese and the saucisson, which is a dried preserved sausage. It's just incredible. So love the food, and I think we're really going to miss it because the food here has just been exceptional all round. And that's from dining in a restaurant to buying a frozen meal. We bought some frozen quiche in the supermarket, and that was incredible as well because I think they expect a certain standard here. So yeah, overall the food has been fantastic, so good.
So final impressions that I'm going to cover today is value. So value is an interesting one because we are in the Eurozone. Obviously, if you're coming from a country with a lower currency, it's going to be quite difficult. Oh, there's like a giant horde of tourists coming this way now. Have a look. It's awesome. Look at that. It's like soccer game's just finished. It's like a soccer game's just finished and everyone's coming here. So, you know, so value-wise, I think it's quite good value here. And I'll tell you why. The accommodation that we're staying at is not very expensive for the whole month. But I'm more talking about the food value. So everywhere you go in the world, everyone goes on about French cheese, French cured meats, French wine and all of that because it's fantastic, right? Here, it's just your daily stuff, like, you know, like a fancy French cheese that you'd consider in your country to be quite premium. Here, it's just par for the course. Everyone just gets it, you know, like I see old ladies buying a kilo of fancy cheeses that we consider fancy, but here it's just another cheese, you know, and breads, baguettes, pastries, croissants, cheap as hell, and cured meats, once again, super cheap. You know, frequently we'll have lunches based purely on a piece of fruit, some bread, cheese and cured meats, you know, very healthy, and it works out to be, you know, maybe 3 or 4 euros per person, which is actually pretty reasonable. So value-wise, actually, it's very good. Restaurant value, you have to kind of look around, but restaurant value, I don't think it's as good a value as obviously buying the food from the market and trying that. But of course, you're sitting down in a restaurant. But you know, for example, that restaurant over there in the corner, we've been there, traditional French food, and that is, you know, between 9 to 15 euro for a main. Entrees or appetizers are between 4 euro to 6 euro depending on the entree that you're ordering, and a glass of wine is only €350. Holy crap, it's so cheap. You know, and once again, these wines that you're drinking, they're Burgundy wines. They're usually village wines. Some of them are you know, Premier Cru wines, or you know, like export quality wines, but you're paying between €350 to €5 per glass of wine. So like I said, you know, the value here is pretty good, and nothing beats sitting in a European destination like this, you know, having a seat under the umbrella, having your Aperol Spritz or a glass of Burgundy, and looking at a 700-year-old church. It's just, yeah. The value of this destination is fantastic.
The final category of our final expectations we are covering is what we didn't expect. So Henrik was laughing when I was telling him this one, but it's true. There's so many wasps here. There's a lot of wasps here. So there's so often where we're eating and there's like wasps sitting on our food and coming into your face, and I don't like that. Another thing is that all the cliches with the food, you think that sometimes it's a lie and that not everything can be that amazing and not everything can be that delicious, but it really is. Everything here is really delicious. Everything is good. All the cheese is good. And another thing is, I love seeing the cliche of so many people always walking with baguettes, you know, under their arm, in their backpack, in their bag. It is really funny that it's a cliche, but it's true. It's, you know, you just constantly see people walking around with baguettes here. It's so good. Yeah, so that's probably my unexpected of Dijon.
I'm going to cover my unexpected final impressions of Dijon. First is, you know, like, you talk to people and they'll say things to you like, oh, you know, the French are rude and all this stuff, and the French are like rude to tourists and people. Absolute bullshit. In fact, I found the opposite. Like, if you just say bonjour and then you just explain, look, I don't speak French, or my French is crap, everyone kind of laughs it off, and they're just so friendly, and actually great service as a whole actually has been very good. So that surprised me, because everyone tells you this, oh, you know, French people are rude, and I'm like, actually that's not true. I don't think so at all. Another thing that surprised me the most is that the lack of graffiti and how clean this area is. I mean, it's like there's a legitimate respect for old stuff and old buildings and old churches, and it's weird. Like I mean, we've just been to Greece, and if you've seen our final impressions of Greece, it's complete opposite. It's complete opposite. There is like a, you know, like, look around, like, not a single graffitied wall in this square, whilst, you know, in some countries, nothing is sacred, man. Nothing is sacred in some countries. But here, everything is clean, everything is well maintained, and that really impressed me a lot. And I didn't expect that, but that really impressed me. So those are the two major unexpected final impressions that I have of Dijon, and it's been a fantastic stay. So look, thank you for joining us on our Dijon expedition, our journey in Dijon, and we'll see you at our next destination. And I'll surprise you where we're going, but here's a hint: a lot of pork meat.